Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Toon Review for tonight's match review of Marseille 2, Newcastle United 1. It is just me tonight, your host, Paul. So hopefully we can have a good chat about last night and, well, vent your fury, guys, if needs be, as I know a lot of you are still very unhappy about the performance, the way we just seem to completely disappear into the wilderness last night, certainly in the second half. But look, we'll get into it. We'll talk about all the issues from the game and, you know, maybe try and calm down a little bit more from what we were last night. Of course, match reaction straight after the game and stuff like that. It's very raw. It's very, I guess, very honest. So, you know, we're just, I guess we just need to calm down a little bit. But then again, why should we? The performance last night, we've seen it all before. We've seen the usual excuses from Eddie, etc. And we just, I don't know. Anyway, I am sprouting a new camera tonight, folks, which is a 4K one. So I think the picture quality looks a lot better as we upgrade things on this show to make things a lot better. I am working on the microphone, cutting out during shouting and commentary, so that will be that will also be sorted in good time. Thanks very much to Mr. Naked Noise Boy, who will be helping me out with that. So thank you very, very much for that. Now, if you do enjoy tonight's show, of course, please do give it the thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. It is free of charge. The only thing we ask for is to hit the notification bell, which will enable you to be notified when we upload any videos or we go live. Of course, memberships are available as per usual, which is the join button. And of course, super chats are available, which is the $ under the live chat. That will guarantee your comment to be read out on the show as well, folks. I think I've seen a comment there saying, is everybody ready for group therapy? I think that's what it tends to be like after we've just been completely stuffed again. It's a terrible feeling, but I think we all know where the main problem lies. We as fans certainly know where the problem lies. It doesn't seem like Eddie does, though, and we'll come on to his comments a bit later. Ian Laverick says, do you stock I Love Nick Pope t-shirts in the TTR shop? No, we don't, but if you do want to have a look in there, guys, thetoonreview.com is your place to go for all your channel merchandise. DX says, Eddie Howe makes Southgate look cutthroat. Ricky Thomas, if he picks No Hope Pope and Burn at left back Saturday and lose, I'm jumping the fence and Eddie can go. And Jamie says, Eddie is too soft and will cost him his job. Fucking Pope. He needs to realise these decisions will cost him his job. That's what I said on X last night. You know, just when I'm just sitting down before I went to bed, just analysing everything again, listening to the Geordie journals, what they had to say. You know, they were in the ground, and a few of the Newcastle channels, just getting a vibe of how they were all feeling. And it was pretty much all the same. It was all the same, pointing at the real reasons why. And look, we know the real reasons, but we'll look at each individual player who I thought needed a rocket up their arse, to be honest. Derek says, hi, Paul. We have no consistency up and down. We're like a yo-yo. 100%. And Tom there just reminding everybody that tonight is the Toon Retreat, of course, on the Discord server. Tomorrow at 8:20. It's like a mental health get-together. If you're struggling at the minute, join the Discord, the Toon Retreat, at 8:20 after our show, and you can talk to fellow people who've struggled or have gone through it and are really helping everybody. It's a fantastic place to go. Tom runs it, and it's brilliant. So once again, thank you to Tom for doing all of that as well. Spike says, once again, Howe has fucked up. Drop Pope, drop AG, drop Dan Burn, fucking shit. Big Dan Burn, AWOL again. AG headless, Pope costing us games, down to Howe's favourites. Now, look, there is a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there is quite a few people who we know will stand up for the players and stand up for the club no matter what, and will not criticise anybody. And you know what? I can understand that. They're Newcastle fans. They're very passionate, just like I am, and the rest of you guys are. There's a lot of passion out there for this football club. And when we lose, there's a lot of different opinions. Some people will say, look, we did okay, but we just had a moment of madness, which lost us the game. Or, you know, we've seen this all before. And I'm well and truly in the fence of we've seen this all before. It's annoying. Mistakes aren't being learned from, quite frankly. And players who should be dropped are not being dropped. And that has become a problem. That was a problem for Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. We know that from all the fans from Bournemouth that have said it. And he doesn't seem to have learned his lessons from that. And yesterday was just typical of that. It was a horrific mistake, to be fair. It was horrific. Paul says, one thing's for sure, Byrne is no left back, Gordon is no striker, and Feckin Pope is no right winger. Great channel. Thanks for everything. Thank you, mate. Look, when the team sheet came out, I think everybody was... looking at it thinking, wow, Willock's in. What does that say for Ramsey? We spent a lot of money on Ramsey in the summer. Alanga's not in the team again. That's over 100 million pounds worth of talent, by the way, guys, not in the team for a Champions League game. Now, I don't care who you are. That is a worry. When Eddie isn't picking his 40-odd million pound midfielder when he's dropped Joe Linton or he's rested Joe Linton, and he's not playing Alanga, 55 million pounds winger, and he's gone with Murphy again in such short space of time. So even though he's rotating the squad, he isn't playing two of the big signings in the summer. Now, if that doesn't ring alarm bells with anybody, then it should, because why? We know that Alanga's had a bit of a slow start to the season. That's fair enough. But he's got to get a chance eventually. And putting Willock in, who hasn't been very good at all, was a huge risk. That risk, I think, paid off, by the way. And hats off to Joe Willock, because I thought he was so much better yesterday than I've seen him in a long time. One of the few. But when you look at the goalkeeping situation, we knew this was coming. We said it after the West Ham game. We said it after the Brentford game. And then Eddie, I mean, I don't know about you guys, and I don't mean to get at Eddie here, but look, what he says when he's been interviewed is very strange. And I know a lot of people commented on my X comment yesterday when I put he's got the thing he said about Nick Pope, right? That he was great against Manchester City and he saved us so many times and he backs him. I understand that he's going to say that in front of the cameras. Right, I understand that 100%. And that was just, again, like I said at the top of the show there, it's kind of raw emotion. When that happens, you just think, oh, bloody hell, why is he doing this? And you say some things after the game without really thinking in depth. And people are right. He's not going to throw Nick Pope under the bus in front of the cameras. What he should be doing is proving to everybody that he's got the balls to drop him. And that starts Saturday. Because if Nick Pope's in goal again, and it seems like everybody, the Geordie journos and a lot of Newcastle United journalists are all pointing to the same thing, that it's going to be Pope in goal again against Everton because of what Eddie said. Now, he makes himself look rather silly because he turns around and he says things like, he saved us so many times this season. And also, he played so well against Manchester City. Well, he only had really one save to make, the one that hit him from Haaland. I don't recall him keeping us in the game at any point with some miraculous saves. So I don't understand sometimes where he's coming from when he's getting interviewed about players. When he's not going to throw him under the bus, fair enough, but just don't kind of make a fool of yourself saying, oh, he was, it's fantastic against Manchester City when he didn't have all that much to do. It puzzles me when he says things like that. It really does puzzle me. And it gives all the indications, again, that he wants to go with Nick Pope. He says that's life of a goalkeeper. But he said that against Brentford as well. He said the same words after the Brentford game. That's life of a goalkeeper. Well, I'm sorry, Eddie, but you have now got to really prove to us that you've got cojones and you are going to drop him. Because we cannot go on with Nick Pope. It does not matter whether he makes 6 or 7 saves in a game, because that one mistake that costs us a goal eradicates any saves he's made in the game. And that was proof last night. Now, we started really well. We started the game on top. We were doing really well. Harvey Barnes, yet again, with a beautiful finish. And hats off to Harvey Barnes, because he has proven his worth. Questions kept being asked about his transfer fee, and was that, legitimate for a Leicester City player? Absolutely. And I think he's proven that. I think he's top scorer now for us this season as well. He finished it brilliantly. But after that, there was a period of 20 minutes after we scored that we just sat back and let Marseille into the game again. I don't know why this keeps happening, and it can't be. Eddie must notice this. Surely to God, he must notice this. When we are being pushed back, and for some reason we just say, right, we've got the early goal. Let's just give Marseille the ball and let's let them just work on it. Because yes, we got back into it again in the first half. We had a good couple of opportunities to maybe get a second goal. Let's not talk about Gordon until a little bit later on, because I want to have me say on him, because he has pissed me off beyond belief. But there was some very, very good performances in there last night as well. Malik Chow again stood out a mile. Joe Willock was excellent. I thought that was the old Joe Willock for me, getting the ball and driving the team forward. Taking players on down the left, etc. And he looked so much better yesterday than I've seen Joe Willock in a long time. So hats off to Joe, because he's had his critics, and a lot of critics from me as well. But by God, he deserves to be praised last night, because it was so much better. We got a super chat from Eric, says Pope Burn in the lineup Saturday. We get smashed, and it'll be we weren't up to our standards. Excuses, rinse and repeat of the same crap, and it's old. Jasmine says we need a new goalkeeper. Hope it isn't Trafford though. To be honest, I don't think I'd mind James Trafford. Ricky says, I don't like to say this, but how good was Greenwood? Only if we had someone with his skills. Yeah, look, I said this last night, taking all the, stuff aside that's gone on with Mason Greenwood, footballing, speaking of the football, he was very good. And he's a very good player. And he put some really good through balls last night. Seems to pair up with Aubameyang really, really well. DK says we're not getting top 5, starting even Miley. Simon says Eddie is like the old man down my road. Everything the same every day. Like clockwork, that old boy can predict his movements too easily. Ricky says if that's the life of a goalkeeper, drop him and prove it. Indeed. And DK says we never have control of games. Hot potato football. I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that at all. But look, Nick Pope, I mean, you come out for the second half. Surely the instructions from the manager is simply to just keep things tight. Do not concede early. Play it out for 10, 15 minutes, and then maybe go and get a second goal. Or if the opportunity comes before that, get a second goal and kill the game off. And for some mad fucking reason, which I do not understand, and I'll never understand why Nick Pope came out like that. Normally, to be fair to Nick Pope, he does come out as a sweeper keeper, and 9 out of 10 times, he does the job very well. Does the job very, very well. But most of the time, he's just, I don't know what was going through his head. Just bear with me a second, guys. Sorry, there's a lot of noise coming from the other room there. This was putting me off a little bit. But as I say, Nick Pope, you have to look at Malik Chow's reaction to it, guys. Because if you look at Malik Chow, right, he can't believe that Nick Pope has come out for that ball in the first place. And there is elements of Chow telling him to get back. When have you ever seen Malik Chow beaten one-on-one since he's been a Newcastle United player? He is immense one-on-one. He proved that on Saturday. He dealt with Haaland, no problem at all one-on-one. So why on earth does Nick Pope think, oh, I need to get there because I don't trust Malik? Chow is level, dead level with Aubameyang. And there's no reason for him to come charging out like that. None at all. And he's never getting there. If you look at all the stills and you look at it in slow motion, Pope is never getting there. And it's one of these things, again, where he seems to get a massive rush to the head and make an error. He's done it before. He did it against Liverpool in the Cup, remember, where he got suspended for the final. He did it at Celtic, of course, was it a pre-season friendly or was it? I can't remember. But he did it at Celtic as well. And these are the things that just you have to analyse. I don't think there's one fan out there who thinks that Nick Pope is worth keeping in goal. There's not one player. I mean, look, to be fair to Emerick Aubameyang, that was a brilliant finish, by the way. It reminded me of Les Ferdinand's debut. I don't know if you can remember, guys, the goal he scored against Coventry when the keeper did the same thing. And Les skipped by him and curled a beautiful ball into the net. It was very similar to that. Maybe a slightly tighter angle for Aubameyang. And then what's he doing? Screaming at him like some kind of fucking banshee? What's that all about? As if you're going to put a 36-year-old player who's been there and done it, by the way. You're not putting him off there. No chance in hell. He is going to score the goal. But what it does is, it's not just the goalkeeping mistake, folks, right? You have to look at it in a bigger picture, because if they didn't score that first goal, I don't think they go and get the second, because it created a lot of problems within the team. It created a lot of players were a little bit, lost their edge a little bit, and obviously the atmosphere went crazy in the ground. The Marseille players had the tails up, and then within a couple of minutes, they're straight back down and score a second. And again, defending was horrific for that goal. I don't know what Dan Burn is doing, standing there just watching, but even Fabian Schär maybe should have predicted that Aubameyang was going to get there, and Schär got there a little bit late. So the defending wasn't great for the second goal either. But that mistake by Nick Pope gave all the momentum you needed right to Marseille at a time where we wanted to go out there and keep things tight and not concede. We were 1-0 up. And granted, the first half was a little bit here and there. It was 1 minute Marseille, then it was us for maybe the latter part of the first half. And then you're just coming in thinking, just up it a little bit more, guys. Some of the passing wasn't there. It was a little bit erratic, but it wasn't as bad as the West Ham and Brentford games. Nowhere near. We were competing in that first half. Whether we were making mistakes or not, we were competing. And for me, that was the important thing. Just keep competing. But when your goalkeeper makes a serious error like that, heads go down, you're just giving it back to the opposition and saying, there you go. Have a goal and then go and get a second. And then really, we never looked like getting back in the game. We had a couple of half opportunities with a couple of shots here and there. Nothing really. The goalkeeper, I think, was a bit extravagant with his diving for Marseille, touching the ball over the bar, things like that, which he probably didn't need to do. Definitely for the cameras for me. But that all comes around because of Nick Pope. So whether he's made 5 great saves in the first half or not, that mistake completely eradicates anything he's done prior, because that lost us the game for me. It cost us the game, that mistake, because the second goal doesn't happen. And I think he's absolutely hopeless right now and needs changing. He needs taking out the firing line, if anything else, to protect him as well. He'll know. He'll know after the game last night. He will know that he cost us that game. No doubt. Matt says, I'm late in the chat, but what about the new PCR rules? Well, we're going to talk about them in a show. One of the new shows we're going to do. Jamie says, Sideshow Bob is better than Pope. Gazatoon says, I feel for Ramsey, leaving your boyhood club to progress your career and hopefully push for an England call by moving to Newcastle to end up being stuck on the bench, getting very little minutes. I feel for the lad. I can't disagree with that. I can't. If you're going to leave Joe Linton out last night, then surely that is your opportunity to play Ramsey. But he didn't. He played Willock. Now, look, Willock played well. I'm not arguing with that at all. I was really happy with Willock. But if you are Jacob Ramsey, you're going to be sort of sitting there going, well, what can I do? What is the option that I have here? Because I'm completely confused. And I would be banging on Eddie's door this morning asking that question. He shouldn't have been... why buy him if he's not going to use him? It doesn't make any sense. Trolls with a super chat saying, how out for no plan B, C and D and in-game management and playing players off form and playing favourites which isn't in form. Well, it's not just that, Trolls. It's the playing square pegs in round holes things again. We absolutely crucified Steve Bruce for doing it. Yet all of a sudden, Eddie Howe does it, but it's not picked up. And that is kind of my point I'm making here, is that sometimes he gets away with a little bit more than he should. Now, like I say, I'm not in the Eddie Howe out camp. Nowhere near. Well, I wouldn't say nowhere near, but I'm not in that camp. But I do know that if he keeps doing this, then he is going to cripple himself. He's sort of pushing himself into a corner, and a corner that he's going to struggle to get out of. And I don't like seeing that. I like Eddie. I love Eddie for what he's done. But again, football moves forward. We saw Miley at right back at one point last night. I mean, Miley is nowhere near a right back. It doesn't make sense to some of the decisions that he's making. And look, this site is now anti-NUFC. What a load of absolute bullshit. You couldn't get more bigger Newcastle United supporters on this channel. Don't like it, sod off. But he's pushing himself into a corner. And we have to see these big changes. And Eddie has to do it on Saturday. He has to leave Nick Pope out. Now, whether he does or not is a very, very different question. The press conference on Friday morning will be very interesting to see what he says. But I honestly, half of me says that he might put Ramsdale in. The other half says not a chance. He'll go with Pope again. But if Dan Burn is at left back instead of Lewis Hall, there will be holy hell on. Absolute holy hell. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past Eddie to play a 5 at the back just so he can accommodate Dan Burn. And I hate saying that. So he's accommodating Burn rather than thinking of the tactics themselves. But I think everybody could see that happening. That he'll play Dan Burn in a 3-man centre-back system just so he can accommodate him and keep him in the side. It's scary, man. It is scary. Some of the stuff that, might happen. But let's move on from obviously the Nick Pope debacle because actually we need to do a man of the match poll. I'm not doing a poll on Nick Pope because you know what it is. Everybody, it's pointless because everybody I think feels the same on Nick Pope. So it's pretty pointless. But we will do a man of the match because I think there was a few players deservedly in there. So I get the pleasure of doing all 4 players tonight. So I'm going to list them and then I'm going to put up the poll. Let me have a think here. Yeah. I think, to be honest, I can't get 4. I'm going with 3 tonight, folks. I can't do 4. I don't think there was actually 4 man of the match performances there. 3 of them possibly, but not 4. So I'm going with 3. And those 3 are Willock, Chow and Barnes. Those are your 3. Get voting, and we will cover that at the end of the show to see who you vote for man of the match. Is it Joe Willock, Malik Chow, or Harvey Barnes? It's a very interesting poll, that. I'm see who yous go for. The classic 2-0, trust the bullshit, or 2.0, yeah. Peter says, if the board don't do something soon about this mess, we are going to be in big trouble. Just makes you think that Isak kept Eddie in a job. I'm not sure Isak kept Eddie in a job at all. I think Isak, most of Isak's goals were on a plate for him, and I think that's been proved. That he's not getting the same ammunition that he got at Newcastle and he is at Liverpool. You can clearly say that. But I don't think it's Isak at all. I think we did play well, but we did play well with Isak in the side because we utilised him. But Gazatoon says, if results and form don't pick up when we get beat at Sunderland, the fans will turn on Eddie and the board might need to make a decision. Ricky says, anti-NUFC, what a prick. Yeah. I mean, look, you get them. Eric says, lots of money spent this summer and a lot of it looks like a waste. Why would the board let him spend more? He plays his favourites anyway. It's very puzzling. But one player, again, while we're looking at the negatives, and call us a negative channel if you want, but we speak the truth. And if you think everything's rosy in the garden, go and watch another channel, quite honestly, if you don't like the honest facts of what happened last night. Anthony Gordon, right? I don't know where this guy is at in his own head, quite frankly. I'm starting to think that Gordon has been sort of swamped by his own hype, if you like, and thinks he's actually better than he is. Now, this could be in numerous things, because Anthony Gordon has been an England regular. He starts a lot for Newcastle when he's available, but his stats just don't add up. They just don't add up. Now, a lot of people think his head's been turned by Liverpool. He wants out, and I have to be honest. To be fair, I think Anthony Gordon does want out of Newcastle United. You look at his body language. Can you honestly say to yourself, right, that he looks like a player that wants to play for Newcastle United? Does his body language tell you any different than he just can't be bothered? Because last night, honestly, that first half, I could have throttled him. I could have slapped him and said, wake the hell up. It just, for me, there was 3 or 4 times that Anthony Gordon was past the ball, right? But the passes were a little under underhit because our passing wasn't brilliant last night. There was a few passes underhit. But he just stands there. He stands there and expects the ball to come to his feet. Now, you don't do that. You just don't do that. You go and you get the ball. If the pass is a little bit short, you graft to go and win the ball back for your team. Now, there was times that he had plenty of time to go and get the ball before the Marseille player come in and takes it away. He had plenty of time, but he didn't do it. And you've got to, why is he not putting that kind of effort in? And if people turn around and say, well, he's carrying a bit of a knock, then he shouldn't be on the pitch. He shouldn't be there, full stop. So it's madness to say that. But then he pulls out the tackles. You know, there was 2 50-50s in the first half, in our own half, by the way, that he just completely backed off. It was so obvious. You know, it wasn't like he did it on the sly. The ball bounces and a Marseille player comes in. Gordon backs off. He doesn't go for the ball. Why? What is it? What is he doing? And then, of course, that at the end of the first half just infuriated me, because Willock did all the hard work, brilliant drive down the right-hand side, and he puts in a fantastic cross. And Gordon was right there when the ball came. He was there. It wasn't like he was 2 or 3 yards behind. He was there. And he just lets it run across him. Now, why isn't he taking that ball and finishing it off or hitting it first time? And that, for me, is the problem with Anthony Gordon. His head's not in it. And Harvey Barnes right now, for me, is the man that should be starting on that left way ahead of Anthony Gordon. And he's certainly not a striker. And Eddie, again, said, I think he was asked a question last night saying, you started without a striker. And then Eddie turned around and said, we did start with a striker. So he's actually seeing Gordon as an alternative striker. It is unbelievable. Nobody, no Newcastle fan, again, sees Gordon as a striker. But for some reason, he turns out in a press conference, says, we have got a second striker. No, you haven't. You haven't. And I would much rather, to be honest, have Harvey Barnes through the middle like that than Anthony Gordon, because Barnes is the better finisher. And that was evident again last night. Gordon is a waste of a place now. He really is. And if this guy is believing his own hype, then don't play him. Don't play him, because I genuinely feel like there is 2 reasons with Anthony Gordon. It's either his own hype, or he just we've bigged him up, or the press have bigged him up. I don't know what it is that he just thinks he's great, or his head's been turned and he doesn't want to play for Newcastle United. But certainly I will say that on the evidence of some of the performances I've seen from Anthony Gordon this season, never mind last season as well, this season, he's been dreadful. Absolutely dreadful and a spare part in the team. He doesn't get involved. He's not a striker, but when he's played on the wing, he has just gone absolutely to pot. Absolutely to pot. But we've seen that there is a player in there, right? We've seen that there is a player in there. And we've seen it in a couple of games in the Champions League where he's really performed well. We know he can do better. But has he just hit a brick wall? And that's it. It's just finished. Because right now, I would not put him anywhere near the first team. Nowhere near the first 11 at all. Put his arse on the bench, granted, and maybe send a message to him. But many people have said that, or in his interviews and things like that, he doesn't come across as that kind of person that would believe his own hype, etc. But come on. We're seeing it on the pitch. His output is absolutely terrible. It's really, really bad. So he's got to do better. And look, I'm not going to go on about Dan Burn tonight because I think, it's not very fair to do that because, he was playing as a sort of, I mean, we started with a back five, didn't we? But I don't know what he was doing for the second goal. But there is changes needed. But there was also a lot of positives came out of last night. Tino getting more minutes. He's just absolutely phenomenal left back. And he just, sorry, I'm talking about Hall there, but Tino and Hall. We need to get them on the pitch, get them minutes, get them fueled up and ready to go. And we can go like that. But Toon was okay. I mean, I've seen a few people saying that Toon should have been in the man of the match poll. I don't think so. Listen, he worked his arse off again last night, as Sandro normally does, but he did give the ball away an awful lot last night. Some of his passing was off. Bruno was here, there, but not the strong performance that he put in against Manchester City. Willock was outstanding. Barnes, again, worked his arse off. I think Murphy had a very, I don't know, it was frustrating watching Murphy last night because, sometimes he can do really good things and then the next he goes to pot for some reason. And I don't think it was his best game. Malik Chow was just sensational yet again. I thought Fabian Schär did okay, apart from the second goal, which I think he should have manhandled Aubameyang there and got rid of the problem, but it didn't happen. But there is a lot of, I guess, what happened against Manchester City is what a lot of people have been saying, is that it kind of papers over the cracks. And when we perform like that, and we know we've got that game in us, but it only happens once in a while. And that's, I think, the big frustration of the fans. We know we're a very, very, very better team when we play at our top level. But trying to get that top level going every game, it seems to be a massive struggle for the manager. And I don't know why. I think frustration is massive. Turpy says, Chow was unreal. Schär wasn't bad. Don't think the goal's his fault. Think Pope should have saved it. He's just... I mean, Nick Pope's hands at the minute are made of paper. I don't know what he's doing. But the thing that got me was when Aubameyang went around him, Nick Pope screaming at him like some kind of banshee. It was actually funny if it wasn't so damn serious. But hey, what can you do? Big Tank says, sad day when they confuse passion with hate. Exactly, but that's the thing. You show passion for your football club and you show honesty, yet some people think it's negativity. I mean, I don't understand how people can come on a channel and say, oh, stop being hard on the players, stop being hard on such and such. Well, I'm sorry, but isn't that just the way life works? If you're not performing, people are going to come down on you? Surely. And if you do perform, you get the bells and whistles that go along with that, like we always do. We praised this team so much at the weekend for the performance against Manchester City. So, it's not like we don't praise. But right now, I think if you're a real true fan of Newcastle United, you can see a problem there and a problem that needs dealing with. And these certain players that keep playing when we know they're bang out of form or are liable to consistently make mistakes. And Eddie Howe contradicts himself in press conferences when he said, if you don't play well, you'll come out of the team. If you play well, you'll stay in it. Yet Nick Pope's made 3 mistakes in 3 away games now in a row, by the way. 3 away games in a row. He has made mistakes. The West Ham one, the first goal he should have saved. It was his near post. He saw it all the way. Yeah, he flapped at it. And then, of course, the last goal for West Ham through his legs. And then Brentford. And then last night. So you keep making mistakes like that and costing Newcastle United points. You need to come out of the side. It's as simple as that. And it's not jumping on a player. It's not scapegoating anybody. It's blatantly obvious in front of your own eyes what is happening. And when it happens like that, I don't understand how people can come on any channel and accuse them of being negative and hating on Newcastle. We're passionate fans because we want Newcastle to be at the top of the league. We want them to be outstanding. Like PIF have told us on numerous occasions where they want Newcastle United to be as at the very top of the pinnacle. And we're not there. We're a long, long way from that. So I don't understand people. You know, yes, everyone's going to have opinions, but when they have a go at you for stating the obvious, that's when it becomes frustrating. Spike says, does Howe go blind during games? I think Toon Army could have been in for man of the match, Paul. Thanks, Ian. I don't agree, but I value your point. I thought he certainly wasn't one of the bad ones last night. He was all over the place, as Toon Army normally is. Peter Garthwaite says, do you think Eddie has lost certain players back in? No, I don't think that's no. VIP Travels, thank you for your super chat as well. I don't think Eddie's lost any of the players, but I tell you what, it would be very, very frustrating for a player to maybe see that things aren't going well on the pitch, right? And Eddie doesn't seem to have a plan B. And, you know, we say this very, very often, that there seems to be no plan B. You know, when things aren't going right, or we start off really well, and then we sort of crawl into our shell a little bit, which we've done on numerous occasions, by the way. Why do we keep crawling into our shells like that? Why aren't we, you know, going to bury teams when we're on top? Certainly the start of the first halves, when we're really on top, go out there and bury them. Get a first goal, but then go and get a second. Make it extremely difficult for the opposition to come back at all. That's what we need to do. But for some reason, he doesn't do it. And this might start filtering down to the players. Mike Elliott says, Paul, why lie about a match how we are playing? There is no point. You tell it the way it is, simple as it is, Paul. And if you were watching, it would be pulling your hair out. Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm honest as a fan, right? And 99% of you guys that watch this channel are certainly honest as a fan as well. And yes, there will be differences of opinions, and that is perfectly fine. But you cannot sit there and say that we're being negative, because this is exactly what's going on the pitch. You look at any other Newcastle United channel that is, you know, heart on sleeve stuff, the Geordie Journos, you know, Matty at the Magpie channel, Newcastle Fans TV, True Geordie. Everybody is saying the same. And there isn't anybody that's saying, oh, we're not worried about anything, because there is something to be worried about. And it's not something that's just started overnight. This has been going on since, after we won the Cup last season, our form dipped, and it hasn't been the same. You know, because let's be brutally honest, we were very lucky to qualify for this Champions League. Results went our way on the final day when we didn't turn up against Everton. So, you know, It's just the honest facts that we're watching a game of football and seeing certain players not perform. When we know that they can do better, you know, we know that there is a better player in Anthony Gordon. We know that Jacob Murphy can turn it on in a blink of an eye and put some brilliant crosses in. You know, we know that Dan Burn is a very good centre-back, not a left-back. It's right in front of us. But some people will never see it because some people are very blinkered. I just think that, everybody, you know, one thing I get sick of in life is, you're just putting that headline up for clicks and subscriptions. What a load of garbage, man. You know, if you want to be a fan channel, you surely have to say how it is. It's not hating on players. It's just stating facts, guys. It really is. DK says, what exactly is plan A? Explain, Paul. I can't. Because I tell you what plan A seems to be. It seems to be that Eddie sends them out and says, go at them for 10 minutes. Play some brilliant football for 10 minutes, get a goal, and then give them the ball. That seems to be, and I've seen it too many times now this season to not convince me ever of anything else. Because why do we do that? Why do we score the first goal, look really good before that goal, and then just disappear and let the opposition have the ball for a long period of time? We get punished far too often for it. Mervyn says, do you think Eddie can take us to the next level? Well, right now, I'll be honest with you, Mervyn, I'm on the fence with that question because he's making the same mistakes that I think, like I said earlier in the show, he's pushing himself into a corner that I don't think he'll be able to get out of if he does get in the corner. He's heading towards that area. He's just saying the way he says things and the way he backs his players. I love how he backs his players, don't get me wrong. He's not throwing anybody under the bus. But behind the scenes, he has to come down on them like a ton of bricks. He's got to. And by that, I mean leaving Nick Pope out now and putting Ramsdale in for a run of games. There's no doubt in my mind that needs doing. And you look at any Newcastle fan has said exactly the same thing about that goalkeeper. Exactly the same. Big Tank thinks I'll always back goalkeepers more than any other position because I like to play as one, but I can't defend Pope's fuck-ups like that performance. I put myself on the bench for something like that. And Jamie says, imagine Pope in goal for the derby. Well, you put the sick emojis there. It does make me feel sick because I don't think he would be able to handle the pressure. I genuinely don't. Nick, look, I was watching a video earlier on today, and they were talking about Nick Pope, saying, look, Nick Pope has done so much for us since he's been at the club. Okay, he's won the cup for us. He was brilliant in that final, and he's put in some brilliant performances. So right now, Newcastle United fans still hold Nick Pope in high esteem, okay, for what he's done since he's been at the club. But the problem is now, he's older now, and you know, the frailties are all there. And I don't want to sit here as a fan and start hating Nick Pope. If you see what I mean, if you see what I'm getting at, I don't want it to turn sour between the fans and Nick Pope because I think his legacy is really good at Newcastle. But he's starting to show those cracks in the armour that really we need a change. And he needs taken out of the firing line completely. But whether Eddie does that or not is obviously a question only Eddie can answer. But I'm intrigued to his press conference on Friday morning to see what he says because I generally I worry that he's going to play. And if he has another stinker on Saturday at Everton, and let's not forget, I think Everton is the bigger game out of Marseille and Everton. It's much the bigger game because, I mean, Marseille, yes, I said last night, it's a very, very good chance for us to get to 12 points and almost secure a knockout stage without even going through the playoffs. That would have been fantastic. But now we've still got some very, very difficult games. You know, we've got to go away to PSG. We've got to go to Leverkusen. Not easy games at all. And then at home to PSV. Now, you would expect us to beat PSV at St. James's. But those other two games away from home, the way we play away from home at the moment is just right out of space. It really is. And it's hard to imagine us winning away from home right now. It's really difficult. I look at this game on Saturday and I think, wow, I mean, is there really any way we get a result here? Because I've seen nothing from Newcastle away from home for a long time now to tell us that we should be confident going into that game. And we don't know the team until an hour and a quarter before the kickoff. And, you know, there was a lot of people last night when the team came out were very disappointed with it. And Will explain, or Burns back, or this Gordon's up front. But when the game kicked off, we kind of looked like it was the right decision. And I think it was. I think he got the formation right because we controlled the first part of the game and got the goal. But then when we start capitulating, we capitulate in a huge way. And it's never just the odd thing, is it? It's just a capitulation. And it's head banging stuff. You want to bang your head on the wall and say, wow, come on, do something here. Let's improve. Isak's on the bench for Liverpool tonight, by the way. That'll put a smile on our faces, I guess. What was that comment there? Paul Borrodale says, Burn and Pope must have gone to the same school of football that get the ball and shit themselves. Kendo says, I love Howe, but he keeps shooting himself in the foot. City had a selection he was forced to make by dropping Burn. I absolutely agree with that. He was forced into it. It wasn't like he said, I'll make the decision to take Dan Burn out of the side. And this is the worry for Saturday, that he's just going to do the same thing or play 5 at the back, and that will accommodate Dan Burn in the side. Because, look, let's be fair. Botman or Share are ahead of Dan Burn. Malik Chow is in a league of his own at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. So the only time that Burn can come in is if he still leaves Botman on the sidelines, which I'm struggling to get the grips with as well. Because, Botman's had a couple of dodgy games. See, I mean, there you go. There is the perfect example, I guess, right? Botman's had a few dodgy games, right? But not really being at fault for goals. I mean, the Brentford one, I think, was just a miscommunication between the goalkeeper and defender, and Brentford got a third goal. But there's Botman. He's getting dropped for a couple of dodgy games. Why isn't he doing the same with Nick Pope? Why is he not turning around to Nick Pope and saying, look, Nick, you've had a few dodgy games. I'm going to put Aaron in. Get yourself right again. Why does he not do that with Pope? And it's a legitimate question. That if you're seeing Sven Botman struggling and he leaves him out, but he hasn't got the bottle to do it with Dan Burn, or he hasn't got the bottle to do it with Nick Pope. Or Anthony Gordon, who is just crap right now. I mean, these questions need to be answered. They're legitimate questions for our manager to answer, because his decisions are so puzzling. Yvonne says, there was chat about a bad feeling in the group after last night. It's about time honest conversations were to be had. Well, I think if you remember last season, especially after the Brentford game last season when we got stuffed, there was a whole inquest, wasn't there? There was a massive inquest into the current form and how we needed to turn it around, etc. And it worked. It worked. But you have to think now, after the West Ham game, then Brentford, now Marseille, are they actually having those difficult conversations? Or are they just saying, look, we'll turn it around eventually, we'll keep working, we'll keep doing this, we'll keep doing that, and hopefully it'll turn around? Time is running out, because I think there's a lot of Newcastle fans very, very uncertain whether we're going to finish in the top 5 this season, me included. I think you have to be honest here and say we're playing a lot of catch-up. And it's all right for people to say, we're only 6 or 7 points behind such and such. But we have to get those points. You know, it's not as simple as saying, we're only a few points behind. We'll get them. We did turn it around last season, and I pray to God that we do the same this season. But why does it keep happening? I want answers. And I think these journalists in the press conferences now have just got to be a little more forceful and say, look, Eddie, we realise that you're not keen on answering, but the fans want to know. But then again, I think that the journalists would be worried about not being invited back or being put out or whatever it may be. It'd become a very difficult environment for them. Peter says, we all know he will play Pope and Burn left back. If he does that, I will start Matchday Live on Saturday with a huge rant. I'm telling you now, because that should not be happening. And if it does happen, then, my God, you know what? I felt sorry for the supporters again last night, who, let's be honest, that was a very difficult away game to attend. And if you look at Adam's video when he was in the ground and sort of filming the Marseille fans, pretending to wrap nooses around the neck and going like this is to hang them or slit their throats and things like that. I mean, Jesus Christ, those fans went through a lot to get to that. 7 hours they were in the stadium, or possibly more. And then they have to see a capitulation like that. And, you know, the players coming over and applauding them, I get it, applauding the support and things like that. But you know what? It just seems a little bit... If I was there last night, and again, the capitulation, I'd just want to go home, to be honest. I wouldn't want to applaud the players. I don't want to see the players. I want to just go out of that ground. But, you know, you don't tend to see it these days. I accept that they're clapping the fans to thank them for the support. But if I was in that supporters group last night, I just want to get out of there. Just get out of there and get to somewhere where I can start enjoying myself again, rather than watch that. Tangy says we need to go on a 10-game win streak, and good luck with that. I mean, look, we did it last season. We did. But the problem is, we are in a position now where I don't think there's 10 games that we can go on a winning streak in. I just don't. You know, that means turning the whole thing around. You know, away form, everything like that. I don't see it, guys. And I want to see it happen. Of course I do, but I just don't see him. Mark says, I honestly don't believe you'll get a bounce. If he is sacked, there'll be a hangover. Well, again, this all depends on what is going on in the dressing room. You know, it's if certain players are getting a little bit fed up and just questioning what he's doing, then, look, that might not be happening at the moment, okay? But it may happen. Let's be fair. If you're one of the players and you're one of the outstanding players like Chow, Toon Army, Bruno, you know, and you're seeing a manager who is incapable of even trying a different formation every now and again, what are you going to start thinking? You know, that's when the dressing room becomes a bit sour. That's when arguments start. Yes, at the moment, they all have to pull together. We all do. As a football club, we all have to pull together to get through whatever it is we're going through at the minute. But at the same time, you can see that sort of thing happening in the future, and that's what worries me. You know, the talk about the start of the season, yeah, the squad's fine. We've got a squad to cope with the games, and I don't think we have. Especially if he keeps playing players that are bang out of form. Agent Texas, I think it's the players assuming going to win, Paul. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a player mentality. You know, maybe the players are just turning up thinking, well, you know, certainly last night we beat Man City, one of the best teams in Europe, on Saturday. So, you know, the French league, it's not very well highly thought of, is it? You know, as a top-class league, even though I think it's quite a decent league, to be fair, but it's not thought of in world football circles as a top league. So Newcastle may well... I just don't want to think that our players go into any game with that sort of feeling. Because football these days, you can't go into any game thinking, just turn up and win. And especially when Newcastle United do it, it certainly doesn't work. And we've seen that far too many times now, where everybody's like, oh, you know, we'll just turn up and win. We're going to win 5-0. It never works out that way. And that's why I think this season, certainly in our match previews, we've been a lot more conservative with our match predictions. In that, you know, sometimes we go out and say, oh, yeah, 4-5-0, it's going to be a walk in the park. It never is. It never is a walk in the park with Newcastle. It's, you know, even if you go 2-0 up with Newcastle, you're always sort of holding back a little bit, thinking, God, you know, you just don't know. But look, I think Marseille themselves, I think they played some decent stuff as well last night. You know, like I say, Greenwood caused us problems. Aubameyang rolled back the years with his finishing. I thought, you know, given another night, he could have had a few more. Let's be honest. He missed some great opportunities, Aubameyang. But then again, we did. We had a couple of opportunities which we should have maybe scored. And we didn't. It was just a very, very frustrating night. And Saturday is going to be an incredibly, incredibly tough game. Incredibly tough game. And you know what? Everton will know. Everton will know. Moyes will know that our situation away from home is not great. And he will be watching those away performances and looking at ways they can unlock the door to our goal. And they've just come away from Old Trafford, remember, winning 1-0 with 10 men for most of the game. with a fantastic defensive performance. So it's not going to be, if those players go into the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Saturday with an expectation to win, then I'm sorry, we'll lose the game. Eddie's got to pick the right players, he's got to drop the right players, and we've got to see a performance. And fingers crossed we do. Now, don't forget, guys, the toonreview.com. Please go and visit that for all your Toon Review merchandise, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, hoodies. I've said hoodies. I'll not say hoodies again. We've got caps in there. We've got beanies, all sorts. So if you want to support the channel that way, head to the toonreview.com. And finally, we will do... I'm not going to do player ratings on my own tonight, guys. I think, I'm just not. I think player ratings, I'd rather have a few more hosts on to do them. They wouldn't be very good. And I've said enough about the game now. But your man of the match for last night was Malik Chow, again, on 64% of the votes this time. Barnes second on 24, and Joe Willock on 11. So once again, Malik Chow, I don't know how many times in a row that is now that he's won man of the match. That is simply incredible. But he deserves it. He's been absolutely outstanding for us. There's nobody can argue. He's just been incredible. But there you go. Right, there you go, guys. That is the show done and dusted. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, guys. Really enjoyed your company. And, of course, thank you for your super chats and memberships. Mods, you've been incredible. And thank you very much for your work tonight. And we will see you all again tomorrow. It's a fan forum tomorrow night. So get yourselves on. Join me. Let's have a good thrash out of... Get things off your chest, guys. About how you're feeling at the moment regarding Newcastle United. But in the meantime, have a cracking evening, folks, and we will see you all again tomorrow. But in the meantime, good night.
Come back and check on Sea Breeze.